Do you feel anxious most of the time? Your anxiety is impacting your career and relationships? What is the difference between anxiety and phobias? And what are the different types of anxiety disorders? If you have these questions in your mind, let's try to delve deep into this anxiety disorder in this video.
My name is Anmol. I'm a mental health practitioner, counselor, psychologist, career coach, life coach, and life skills trainer. I'm here to share my insights and learnings with you to tackle life challenges and attain your highest potential. Let's create balance in your life.
Hi everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. Welcome to my channel Ask Life with Anmol, where we try to share knowledge about psychology based principles and try to create balance in your life. Today's topic that we have chosen today is a continuation of our series on mental health disorders. This is the part 2 of it. So if you haven't watched that video, please watch that. We will show you in the I button the link of that particular video. So today's topic is anxiety disorder. We will discuss about what are the different types of anxiety disorders, what are the symptoms of different types of anxiety disorders, what is the difference between phobias and anxiety disorders. We will also try to understand what are the causes of anxiety disorders, and lastly give you some psychology based techniques to reduce your anxiety. So stay till the end if you want to learn about anxiety disorders. So let's start. Anxiety is very common. If you are going for an examination, it's your, you have put your whole hard work in this examination, you will feel anxious. If you're going for an interview, you will feel anxious about it. But you will ask me, Anmol, it's very normal to be anxious in these moments. Yes, it's very normal. But let's talk about a student who has prepared for the examination. He or she has given 100% in the examination. But when the examination comes, the person feels anxious. Let's talk about a working professional. The person has prepared for the interview. They have given interview multiple times, but still they have that anxiety. This type of particular anxiety is called free floating anxiety. The anxiety which does not have any reasons for it. That gives us the situation today of two types of anxiety disorders. The first type of anxiety disorders that we have is the one which does not have any source to it. You might not know that why I am having this anxiety attacks or why are you having these panic attacks. And second type of anxiety are the phobias. Phobias have a source. For example, you have phobia of water, phobia of height. They have a source of anxiety. But some anxiety that become the disorder mostly does not have a source to it. And they have a prolonged vision. If anxiety attacks, you are having those anxiety attacks for let's say minimum 6 months and they are recurrent in nature, then only we call that as an anxiety disorder. If you are having anxiety for let's say once a month because you have an instant, an important topic or important function or important, event in your life, that's very normal. But if it does not have any, source, if it is recurrent, if it is happening for let's say at least 6 months, then you are having a anxiety disorder, right? So now let's try to understand first part, what are phobias, right? These phobias come under anxiety disorder. So the first phobia that we will be discussing today is called social phobia, also known as social anxiety disorder. So as the name suggests, social phobia, when a person is not willing to go into social situations, either it is a meeting, either it is a presentation, either it is going to a theater, going to a restaurant. They don't like to interact with people or be in social situations. Now the reason for that is because they think other people will judge me. It will become an embarrassing situation for me. And if you have this social anxiety disorder, that in your childhood you would be very a shy child. You would not interact with people much, right? So they always think in their mind that other people are judging me. I might create a situation for me which might lend me into a negative emotion, right? So these are some of the symptoms you have for social anxiety disorders. Another example, if I have to give you, if people don't like to eat in public, people don't like to speak in public, those are some of the examples of social anxiety disorders. And these people are very self-conscious about how they are looking, how they are presenting themselves, right? So these are some traits. Now let me share a story with you, a case with you, a person named Vikram who had social anxiety disorder. So Vikram 28 had a brilliant mind for branding and digital strategy. But when it came a time to pitch his ideas during meetings, his voice would vanish. He would start sweating, right? His hands and legs used to tremble. Even when he had a perfect answer, the thought of everyone looking at him made his palms sweat, his throat tighten, and his stomach churn. In college, he had once fainted during a class presentation. Since then, he feared that speaking in front of people would lead to similar humiliation, right? So, despite positive feedback on his work, Vikram avoided all tasks involving public speaking. When his manager offered him a leadership role that required frequent client interaction, he politely declined that role. Inside, he hated himself. He wanted to speak up, to shine, but fear held him hostage, right? So, if you see here in Vikram's story, he had a past issue with social phobia, social interaction, and that increased and impacting his current job, where he is not able to get promoted. So if you see here, your anxiety or your phobias might be related to your childhood, might be related to your past. You need to understand how is it impacting you. The next type of disorder or phobia is agoraphobia. Now, agoraphobia in Greek literally translates to fear of the marketplace. So initially, this agoraphobia looks like a social phobia. But the difference here is people don't like to visit a place where there is no control of theirs. Anything can happen in that particular place. So for example, if I am going for a flight, right? Some people fear the flight. So that becomes agoraphobia for them. Anything can happen in the flight. Or let's say an example of going in an elevator. For them, they might have this mind that, lights might get switched off. I would never be able to get out of the elevator, right? Or elevator might get disconnected. So what will I do? So these people never would like to go on an elevator or never take a flight, right? So that's agoraphobia for you. Sometimes people don't like to go into, closed spaces also. So if you see here, for these people, it is actually the fear of being in a place or situation where escape is difficult or impossible if something could go wrong, right? So agoraphobias are often afraid of not only crowds but also crossing bridges, traveling in a car or plane, eating in a restaurant, and sometimes even of leaving the house. To be of any of the situation or even to think about it becomes anxious for them, right? That can lead to extreme feeling of anxiety and sometimes panic attacks. Now let me give an example of Arjun, right? And what was his story of agoraphobia. At 35, Arjun lived a restricted life. Once a travel enthusiast and theatre lover, he now hadn't stepped into a mall, cinema, or train station for the past 2 years. It all began with a panic attack in a crowded train. Since then, he feared being in places where escape might be hard. Crowds, elevators, supermarkets, buses all became threats to him. Even walking in grocery store around the corner required deep breathing and phone calls to the wife for reassurance. He had started working from home and even turned down a friend's wedding invitation. He felt trapped, not by the world, but by his mind. So if you see here, for the case of Arjun, it all started with a situation, right? For example, if you are going or traveling through metro, you have a panic or anxiety attack. Then the metro becomes the situation for you where you are having that particular attack. And in your mind, you exaggerate it. And next time you're traveling in metro, you will remember those attacks and that physical symptoms of anxiety would come, right? So that is agoraphobia for you. The next anxiety disorder is panic disorder. Some of the symptoms of this disorder are you have a racing heart, you breathe very profoundly, your vision gets blurred, it's like a blackout situation. There is a fog in your brain, you're not able to process your thoughts, and it can happen anywhere. Some people think they are about to die. It's a heart attack that I am having, but it's not a medical condition. Panic attack is a psychological condition. Let me share a story with you. So there was a girl who was not able to speak. She was very submissive. She was not able to speak in front of parents, friends, and other people. She kept her thoughts inside the mind, right? All the emotions. But one day, what happened? She had a panic attack. And in that panic attack, all her emotions went out in a physical manner, right? So it can be related to your childhood. It can be any other source. These panic attacks can happen. So let me share a case with you of Aisha, who was a 24-year-old postgraduate student in Bangalore. It started one afternoon during a lecture. Her heart rate began to pound violently in her chest. Her vision blurred. Her hands trembled. And all of a sudden, a fear gripped her. She was convinced that she is about to die. She rushed out of the classroom just to have that grasp of air, right? It was a panic situation for her. The experience was traumatic. Over the next few months, the attacks kept happening, seeming out of nowhere. There was no outside situation, but it kept happening. Sometimes on the bus, sometimes on the cafe, or sometimes when she was with friends. The unpredictability of these attacks made her avoid social situations. She started skipping classes and staying at home. Her world was shrinking. So this can happen to you when you have a panic disorder. So panic disorder, there is no reason. There might be some childhood memories in the past, but when this anxiety gets converted into physical situations and all these symptoms, then we have a panic disorder. So a reference to clinical or a counseling psychologist is highly recommended if you are having regular panic attacks. The next disorder that we have is generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD. So if you remember, we talked about free-floating anxiety, which does not have any source to it. It is very similar to it. And it is the most common form of anxiety disorder these are worriers, plain worriers. Even if they don't have something to worry, they will find something to worry. For example, you might have seen people with this disorder. If they have, a job, they will think that, okay, the job is done. I'll think about the relationship. I have a problem with the relationship. If the relationship is fine, then they will talk about money, right? That there is a problem with money. If money is fine, they will find another thing to worry. They are plain worriers. That is generalized anxiety disorder. Now, what is the symptom for this? They worry about money, their children, their lives, their friends, their dog, anything else on the planet, right? They have muscle aches, they feel tense, edgy, get tired easily, and may have trouble concentrating on their tasks, right? They have tensions, they experience sometimes sleeping problems also, and are often very irritable. They are very prone to irritate. It is very easy for anyone to irritate them, right? These are all signs of stress. The problem is that the stress comes from something which is unknown to the person. As I told you, there is no point of worrying, but they will find something to worry, right? So that is not coming from a real external source. There is something in your mind which is worrying you. So once again, it is the matter of degree and source, right? People with generalized anxiety disorder worry more excessively than people who are normal worriers, right? And they are worried over things that would cause other people no real concern. For example, if you are going on a plane, right, it is very normal for other people and they have had multiple flights. Still, they will worry that this would happen, other things would happen. So they create negative situations in their mind for everything that is happening in their life. So that is generalized anxiety disorder for you. Now, let me take you through a case of generalized anxiety disorder of Ravi, who was a 32-year-old accountant living in Mumbai. On paper, his life looked very stable, right? Steady job, supportive wife, and quiet apartment in the suburbs. But inside, Ravi felt like he was constantly at a war with his thoughts. Every morning, before his feet even touched the floor, his mind would start, what if I made a mistake in yesterday's reports? What if I lose my job? The market is crashing, recession is coming. What if the investment get crashes? What if I'm not able to support my family? What if my wife lose her job? Right? These were fleeting thoughts in his mind. They were constant, looping anxieties that hijacked his focus and left him physically exhausted till the midday. After the day, he couldn't sleep well, his back and shoulder ached from tension, and even during family dinners or movie nights, he couldn't shut off these thoughts, this what if engine in the mind, right? So, despite repeated reassurances from his boss, from his loved ones, the worry never stopped. Eventually, Ravi sought help after he began experiencing stomach issues and constant state of exhaustion. So if you see here on the outside, you will feel that these people life is very sorted, but the head, the mind is the enemy for them. That is always thinking in a negative loop, right? So that is an example of generalized anxiety disorder. Now let's try to understand what are the causes of anxiety disorders. There are 4 principles given in psychology which are related to this particular disorder. The first principle is known as psychoanalytical theory, which tells you that anxiety happens because of some unrepressed thoughts and urges which never came into picture into your conscious memory. So these are related to your unconscious emotions and thought. So for example, I told you before, a girl who was not able to speak out, right, in front of the parents, she was very submissive, she was never told to be independent. Now that girl became a victim of panic disorder because that got converted into physical symptoms of panic disorder, right? One more example is that you fear your negative emotions, your anger. So let's say you start fearing knives because knives are a symbol of your anger. You have fear of height, but that might be a pre-assumption of your suicide thoughts. If I am having suicidal thoughts, I would never go to a place where I think I can jump. Let's say that creates a phobia or anxiety of heights. So psychoanalysis theory says it is in your childhood, it is in your trauma, it is in your past or unconscious memory that you are facing anxiety disorders. Second thought says that it is all wrong. It's not in the past, it is in the present moment. That's called behaviorist approach or behaviorism approach. In behaviorism approaches, people say that we have learned this behavior of anxiety. So for example, if I have a very traumatic incident of drowning for the first time when I tried swimming, I will have this phobia of not going to swimming next time, right? If I had a childhood where I was always beaten to express my emotions and feelings, so I would never be able to express myself, right? So that is the behaviorism part where we are learning from a conditioned response. In a day-to-day life, for example, let's say you are working in a very toxic job, right? And you are using Teams software. So if you all remember the Teams sound, so what happens, that sounds becomes the anxiety. Because in the past meeting, from the same sound, I was humiliated by my boss, I was told multiple things that created anxiety in me. Now when I listen to the sound of Teams meeting again, that creates that anxiety in my mind. So you have learned those behaviors from the present situation. That's what is given by behaviorist approach. The third theory is of cognitive science. So cognitive theory says there are other parameters also of how we think. Our thought process creates anxiety disorders, right? So for example, these thought process are, one is magnification. A person tries to magnify things. They try to create mountains out of molehills. So for example, in panic disorder, if my heartbeat is racing, some people feel that I am having heart attack. They increase it, they magnify it, and that leads to panic disorder or anxiety disorder. Second is all or nothing thinking. People feel I should be perfect or I am zero, I am a failure, right? If they get some negative feedback from their bosses, from their teachers, they feel anxious about it, right? Then comes overgeneralization. A single negative event interpret as never-ending pattern of defeat, right? That is overgeneralization for you. If I have failed in my pre-board examination, then I would also fail in my board examination. That is overgeneralization for you. If I have failed in one interview for my job, I will fail in all the other interviews. That is how people create anxiety by their thinking. And lastly, minimization. Giving very little impact or focus on your successes. That I have done this, I have cleared this examination, right? And giving more focus to negative situations or negative feelings. That is minimization that causes your anxiety. So this is the cognitive perspectives and these phenomena which creates anxiety in you, right? And the last phenomena is biological factor. So according to a research study, there might be some imbalance in several neurotransmitters like your serotonin and GABA, right? And recent researchers have linked panic disorders to possible defects in your serotonin binds, right, to its receptors in the nervous system. Study also suggests these chemical imbalances may have a genetic component to it, meaning that anxiety disorders such as OCDs, phobias and panic disorders can be passed from the parent to the child through more of an observational learning. So you see here, it's the biological component related to your neurotransmitters, and it may be genetic also, but it is not 100%. So these are some of the reasons why people have anxiety disorders. So let me share some techniques to reduce your anxiety instantly. First is called box breathing. Box breathing, what you do, you inhale for 4 seconds, stop your breath for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then again stop it for the next 4 seconds. This will instantly relieve your anxiety. Next is 5-4-3-2-1 technique. In this, what you do when you face an anxiety disorder, you have to see 5 things you see, things you have to touch in your surroundings and environment, 3 things you can hear, voices around you, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So what happens in anxiety disorder, we lose the senses. So this technique is a grounding technique which brings you back to your senses. Then you can also see some videos of muscle relaxation techniques called JPMR. So you can search on YouTube, Jacobson's muscle relaxation technique. That will also help you reduce your anxiety. Then there are some therapy-based approaches, right? We can also consult a clinical or a counseling psychologist. If you think all these things which I'm telling you are not impacting you, you should always consult a counseling or a clinical psychologist who can solve this issue of anxiety using different therapy techniques like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, works on your thought process to reduce your anxiety. Then there is systematic desensitization or exposure therapy that works on your phobias, right? So there are some therapy techniques. Then you have to change some lifestyle, relief systems, or have some habits of lifestyle changes. Exercise regularly for at least 20 to 30 minutes. Limit caffeine level or sugar level as it might increase your anxiety levels. There should be 7 to 8 hours of sleep to enhance your sleep hygiene, and have a routine structure, right? You can start journaling also, writing down your thoughts. Talk to someone, have a support system. It can be from your family member, it can be your friend, it can be your partner. Talk to them how you're feeling about it. Express yourself, right? That also reduces your anxiety. And lastly, you can try mindfulness technique of meditation, mantra repetition, or gratitude for practice. So these are some of the techniques you can do, but again, I would urge you, if you found in today's video that you have some kind of disorders and this is happening with you for more than 6 months, then it is high time you consult a clinical or a counseling psychologist. I hope you got an understanding today of anxiety disorders in detail. Please subscribe to our channel. We will be coming up with more such disorders video for you. Like this video, share this video with your friends and family members to enhance their knowledge on mental disorders. Comment down below if you want videos on any particular disorder, right? We will give you the same exact case studies and the solutions and the details of that particular mental disorder. Subscribe to my channel, Ask Life with Anmol, to create balance in your life. Keep growing.